The silence inside Buckingham Palace has finally shattered, and what just leaked from behind those gilded doors is sending shockwaves straight across the entire globe. Just 7 minutes ago, an emergency decree was officially handed down, instantly stripping Queen Camilla of her most vital, high-profile royal duties and handing them directly to Princess and with immediate effect. This is not a temporary schedule adjustment. This is not a routine diplomatic rotation. This is an absolute, high-stakes institutional purge, a cold, calculated strike coordinated at the highest levels of the monarchy. For months, whispers of toxic power struggles, furious screaming matches, and bitter ultimatums have echoed down the private corridors of the royal estate. But nobody, literally nobody, expected King Charles to sign off on an order this ruthless. Camilla's diary has been systematically erased, her authority dismantled, and her private influence utterly crushed in a single, devastating stroke. As courtiers sprint through the hallways in absolute panic and emergency meetings are called behind closed doors, one terrifying reality has become crystal clear: the war for the royal household is no longer being fought in secret. The crown has officially made its choice, Camilla is facing complete public humiliation, and the ultimate fight for survival has just begun. To truly comprehend the sheer devastation of this unprecedented palace coup, you have to understand the toxic, pressure cooker environment that has been building behind the scenes for years. The relationship between Queen Camilla and Princess and has never been a simple story of sisterly warmth or quiet royal cooperation. It has been a cold, silent war of attrition, a decades-long battle fought over duty, legitimacy, respect, and who truly holds the ear of the monarch. When Camilla Parker Bowles first stepped into the royal fold, the resistance against her was immediate, fierce, and unrelenting. For decades, she carried the heavy, agonizing burden of being viewed as the ultimate outsider, the woman who fractured the fairy tale image of the House of Windsor. She fought tooth and nail, inch by agonizing inch, to transform her public image from a vilified mistress into a recognized, crowned queen consort. She endured intense media scrutiny, brutal public backlash, and the icy stares of an institution that once treated her very presence as an existential threat to its survival. She spent years carefully constructing a delicate network of allies within the palace machinery, slowly consolidating her influence over internal schedules, patronages, and high-level royal appearances. She believed that once the crown was placed upon her head, her position alongside Charles would be permanently untouchable. She was dead wrong. Standing directly in her path was Princess and the Princess Royal. And represents everything Camilla could never truly embody: unbreakable discipline, relentless devotion to the crown, and an unwavering, stubborn work ethic that has earned her the title of the hardest-working royal for decades. And built her reputation not through grand public PR campaigns or carefully staged photo opportunities, but through absolute, uncompromising endurance. She carries out hundreds of engagements a year without ever demanding applause, without ever complaining, and without ever letting her personal emotions interfere with the heavy machinery of the state. To Anne, the monarchy is in sacred duty that demands absolute self-sacrifice. To Anne, loyalty is not proven through sweet words in private, it is proven through relentless, flawless execution in public. For years, these two formidable women maintained a tense, uneasy truce. They shared the same rooms, attended the same state banquets, and stood on the same famous balcony, putting on a polished display of family unity for the world's cameras. But behind those artificial, tight-lipped smiles, the resentment was festering like an open wound. Insiders reveal that Anne always viewed Camilla's growing operational control over palace affairs with deep skepticism. She watched as Camilla's private staff began altering royal schedules, shifting high-profile patronages, and subtly prioritizing events that maximized Camilla's personal visibility while pushing long-standing institutional protocols to the side. On the other hand, Camilla felt constantly suffocated by Anne's towering presence. Every time Camilla tried to assert her authority as the senior female royal, the shadow of Princess Anne's flawless track record was thrown directly in her face. Palace aides would quietly compare Camilla's need for rest and carefully managed schedules with Anne's unbelievable, mechanical ability to pull off 4 state engagements in a single day without a single hair out of place. Every comparison felt like a sharp, deliberate insult to the queen consort. Every private compliment paid to Anne's reliability sounded like a subtle, lethal jab at Camilla's standing. As King Charles took the throne, the stakes skyrocketed to a dangerous level. The monarchy was already facing immense public pressure, reduced numbers of working royals, and unprecedented global scrutiny. The institution simply could not afford mistakes, delays, or personal drama. The balance of power was stretched so thin that even the slightest friction threatened to snap the entire structure in half. Camilla believed her status as queen gave her the ultimate veto power over royal operations, and believed the preservation of the crown's integrity superseded any individual's ego, even the queen's. The stage was set for a monumental disaster. The tension was building like a ticking time bomb inside the palace walls, waiting for one single, explosive spark to detonate the entire royal household. And when that spark finally ignited behind locked doors, it didn't just burn down their fragile truce, it triggered a total royal catastrophe that no one saw coming. The complete breakdown of the royal household didn't happen in public, it exploded behind the heavy, soundproof oak doors of a private briefing room at Windsor Castle during a high-stakes planning session for an upcoming series of major international state investitures. According to explosive leaks originating from deep within the royal staff, the atmosphere inside the room was thick with tension from the very second the meeting began. King Charles was seated at the head of the table, flanked by senior private secretaries, military aides, and royal coordinators. Camilla arrived slightly late, visibly exhausted from a demanding week of engagements, expecting a routine walkthrough of her upcoming schedule. Instead, she was handed a revised briefing folder containing an unexpected, last-minute addition, a demanding, multi-hour international reception and subsequent state dinner that had been added to her diary without her prior consent. For Camilla, this was the absolute breaking point. Years of feeling managed, pushed, and maneuvered by palace bureaucrats suddenly boiled over into raw, uncontrollable fury. In front of high-ranking aides, senior staff, and the king himself, Camilla slammed the briefing folder shut, her voice trembling with intense anger. "I am the queen consort, not an entry in a scheduling diary to be moved around at the whim of courtiers," she reportedly snapped, her voice echoing off the walls. She made it crystal clear that she would not be attending the added reception, demanding that the staff immediately cancel the appearance or find someone else to stand in her place. The room fell into an agonizing, deadly silence. Canceling a state-linked reception with foreign dignitaries already confirmed would be a catastrophic diplomatic embarrassment for the crown. Staff members froze, terrified to intervene in a direct confrontation involving the queen. That is when Princess Anne, who had been sitting quietly at the far end of the table reviewing her own extensive briefing notes, calmly looked up. She didn't raise her voice, but her words sliced through the room like a razor-sharp blade. She pointed out that invited guests were already en route, protocol had been locked in, and abandoning a crown obligation over personal exhaustion was completely unacceptable for anyone holding senior royal office. Anne's calm, stoic intervention acted like pouring gasoline directly onto an raging fire. Camilla spun around, her eyes wide with shock and fury, accusing and of constantly undermining her authority, meddling in her private household affairs, and staging a deliberate campaign to make her look weak in front of the king. The argument rapidly devolved into a blistering, unfiltered shouting match. Decades of repressed bitter resentment, jealousy, and private grievances came pouring out in a brutal torrent of words. Camilla openly questioned Anne's loyalty to the new reign, while Anne fiercely defended the absolute sanctity of royal duty, bluntly reminding Camilla that titles are meaningless if the person wearing them refuses to carry the weight that comes with them. King Charles sat between them, caught in a nightmarish dilemma. He watched his wife, the woman he had fought a lifetime to protect, drowning in sheer humiliation and distress. But he also looked at his sister, the rock of his family, the one person who had never once failed the monarchy when crisis struck. When Camilla angrily turned to Charles, demanding that he step in, discipline his sister, and enforce her royal authority right then and there, the king did something that stunned everyone in the room. He said absolutely nothing. His silence was a deafening, lethal blow. Heartbroken, deeply betrayed, and unable to endure the unbearable humiliation, Queen Camilla stormed out of the briefing room, leaving a trail of stunned courtiers in her wake. She retreated immediately to her private quarters, locking her doors and refusing to speak to palace staff or the king for the rest of the evening. But the night was far from over, and the absolute worst was yet to come. As news of the explosive fallout began quietly leaking through encrypted messaging channels among high-level staff, an urgent, frantic effort was launched to contain the damage. A private screenshot of a leaked text exchange, purportedly between two senior palace coordinators, began circulating like wildfire among exclusive royal media circles. The message read, "Total meltdown at Windsor. C walked out. Absolute disaster for the upcoming schedule. The king is sitting down with and alone right now. Something massive is shifting." Then came the shocking twist that changed the trajectory of the entire royal family forever. Camilla believed that by walking out, she had forced Charles into a corner where he would have to come to her, apologize, and smooth over the dispute. She was convinced her position as queen consort gave her the ultimate leverage. But while she was isolated in her private apartments, waiting for her husband to knock on her door, King Charles was doing something she never, in her wildest nightmares, anticipated. In a secret, unscripted late-night meeting inside his private study, Charles didn't draft an apology to his wife. Instead, he looked Princess Anne directly in the eye and asked her a question that permanently altered the royal hierarchy. "If I strip the senior ceremonial load from Camilla immediately, can you take full, permanent command of her responsibilities starting tomorrow?" Princess Anne didn't hesitate for a single second. She looked at her brother, took a deep breath, and gave a cold, decisive one-word answer, "Yes." When Camilla finally discovered late that night that her husband hadn't just discussed replacing her, but had actually initiated the formal, legal transfer of her primary royal authority to Princess Anne behind her back, her heartbreak shattered into total, unadulterated war. The decree was already being drafted by palace lawyers before she even knew the conversation had taken place. By early the next morning, the secret machinery of Buckingham Palace was moving with terrifying, military precision. What started as a private domestic conflict had now transformed into a full-scale institutional execution. The formal administrative decree was finalized, signed, and dispatched through senior royal offices. Princess Anne was officially granted immediate, sweeping authority over a massive portfolio of senior royal duties previously belonging exclusively to Queen Camilla, including high-profile state appearances, primary patronage representations, and senior ceremonial leadership at major national events. When the formal physical document was finally delivered to Camilla's private desk, the queen consort read the first line, dropped her glasses onto the mahogany table, and stared at the wall in total, silent horror. The wording was brutal, cold, and absolute. The transfer was active immediately. There was no transition period. There was no public trial phase. Her official diary was actively being wiped clean by palace schedulers, line by line, event by event. In an absolute state of panic and fury, Camilla demanded an immediate, face-to-face confrontation with King Charles. She marched directly into his private study, holding the official order in her trembling hand. There were no advisors, no private secretaries, and no diplomatic cushions left to hide behind. "Did you decide to replace me before you even had the courage to tell me?" Camilla demanded, her voice cracking with emotional agony. Charles, looking exhausted and visibly weighed down by the terrifying crown he wears, set his pen down on his desk. He didn't deny it. He admitted that he had been secretly consulting with senior advisors for weeks about stabilizing the royal workload, but the explosive confrontation at Windsor had forced his hand. He looked at his wife and delivered a devastating truth that cut deeper than any blade. The institution cannot wait for personal comfort. When the pressure rises, the crown needs absolute certainty. And gives us certainty. We cannot afford hesitation. Camilla felt the ground beneath her position completely collapse. But then, she asked the one question that unleashed a second, even more terrifying revelation, a twist so explosive it threatens to tear the entire next generation of the royal family apart. Looking Charles dead in the eye, Camilla asked through tears, "Who else knew about this? Did William know?" King Charles hesitated. He looked away for a brief, agonizing second, and that single pause revealed the horrifying reality. Prince William hadn't just known about the plan, he was one of its chief, secret architects. It was Prince William who had quietly gone to his father weeks prior, urging him in private conversations to rely far more heavily on Princess and aggressively scale back Camilla's public role. William had argued with cold, razor-sharp logic that with the monarchy under intense public scrutiny, the public needed to see absolute, ironclad discipline at the center of the royal firm. William insisted that Princess and was the ultimate symbol of stability, while Camilla's presence was constantly plagued by historical baggage, controversial press coverage, and unpredictable personal friction. William had systematically pushed behind the scenes to convince Charles that transferring Camilla's senior duties to and was the only way to safeguard the future of the throne that he will one day inherit. The realization hit Camilla like a physical blow. This wasn't just a husband making a tough operational decision for his sister. This was a coordinated, multi-generational royal siege designed to sideline her permanently. The future king and the king had aligned against her, using Princess and as their ultimate operational weapon. Within hours of this horrifying confrontation, the secret leaked to the press, and the global media landscape went into an absolute meltdown. Digital news outlets across the world broke into live broadcasts with flashing red banner headlines: Royal Coup, Queen Camilla stripped of duties, Princess and takes direct control. Social media erupted into pure chaos. On X, formerly Twitter, hashtags like #RoyalCouph, #PrincessAnne, #Camilla ousted, and #PalaceWar instantly surged to the top of global trending lists, generating hundreds of thousands of frantic posts per hour. Royal commentators, journalists, and internet sleuths began tearing apart every single frame of recent royal footage, analyzing body language, subtle glances, and seating arrangements from past events to prove that this brutal purge had been secretly planned for months. A notorious, highly followed royal insider account posted a viral thread that gained over 10 million views in under 2 hours, leaking alleged internal details. Make no mistake, Camilla has been completely outmaneuvered. William and Charles played chess while she thought they were playing checkers. And is stepping into the spotlight, and Camilla's operational power within Buckingham Palace is officially dead. The public hysteria was reaching a fever pitch, but deep within the palace corridors, another terrifying cliffhanger was already unfolding. As Camilla realized the scale of the betrayal orchestrated by Charles and William, she stopped crying. Her heartbreak hardened into an icy, dangerous resolve. She realized that if the palace was going to wage an all-out war to destroy her legacy, she no longer had any reason to protect their secrets. She picked up her private phone, dialed a direct line, and made a single, secret call that sent an absolute shockwave of terror through the palace legal team. She requested an immediate, off-the-record meeting with a high-profile legal firm and top-tier media strategists. Camilla was preparing to fight back, and her next move threatened to burn the entire royal house to the ground. The global reaction to the sudden, brutal royal reshuffle has been nothing short of explosive. The world is watching in utter fascination as the British monarchy undergoes what many are calling the most ruthless internal power shift in modern history. Media outlets, international news networks, and social platforms are locked in a fierce, non-stop battle over who is right, who is wrong, and what this means for the future of the crown. Major news networks have cleared their normal broadcasting schedules to run live, round-the-clock panel debates featuring seasoned royal biographers, constitutional experts, and political analysts. The media industry itself is fiercely divided into two hostile camps, turning this palace crisis into a massive, global spectacle. On one side, conservative commentators and traditional royal historians are passionately praising King Charles's cold, decisive action. They view the transfer of power to Princess and as a masterstroke of institutional survival. This is precisely what a strong, modern monarch must do, declared one prominent royal expert during a heated live broadcast on major British television. Princess and is the undisputed gold standard of public service. She is untainted by scandal, fiercely disciplined, and universally respected across the globe. By placing her at the absolute center of royal duties, King Charles has secured the stability of the monarchy. Queen Camilla's personal feelings, while unfortunate, must always come second to the preservation of the crown itself. On the other side of the media divide, sensationalist tabloids, pop culture commentators, and millions of social media users are utterly horrified by what they perceive as a cruel, calculated, and deeply public humiliation of Queen Camilla. They argue that after decades of fighting to be accepted, surviving severe public vilification, and dedicating her life to supporting Charles, Camilla has been callously tossed aside the moment things became politically inconvenient. Online platforms have devolved into an absolute battlefield. Millions of fans and critics are clashing in the comment sections of viral videos, social media threads, and news articles. Viral TikTok edits contrasting princess and stoic, no-nonsense public appearances with dramatic clips of Camilla looking isolated and visibly distressed have racked up tens of millions of views. One viral post on X with over 250,000 likes bluntly stated, "Say what you want about Camilla, but Charles making her fight for acceptance for 30 years just to strip her of her duties. The second William says so is cold-blooded. The royal family is completely brutal." Meanwhile, a counter-trending campaign under the hashtag #WeStandWithAnne began dominating internet discussions, with hundreds of thousands of users celebrating the Princess Royal's elevated role, princess, and has done the actual work for 50 years without complaining once. It's about time she officially gets the power and recognition she deserves. Best decision Charles ever made. The drama has even spilled over into the entertainment and celebrity world. High-profile international figures, popular podcasters, and late-night TV hosts are relentlessly mocking the palace chaos, turning the high-stakes royal feud into global pop culture satire. Leaked reports suggest that major Hollywood streaming giants and elite publishing houses are already reaching out through third-party intermediaries to individuals close to Camilla, offering astronomical, multi-million-dollar deals for exclusive, tell-all interviews or explosive memoir rights if she decides to break her silence. Inside the palace walls, the public explosion has created an environment of absolute panic and paranoia. Courtiers are desperately trying to manage the public relations nightmare, issuing frantic, carefully worded official statements that claim the shift is merely a routine optimization of the working royal schedule to support the king's long-term vision of public service. But nobody is buying the official spin. The public sees right through the diplomatic jargon. They know a royal execution when they see one. Tensions reached an absolute breaking point when fake, highly convincing deepfake audio clips and fabricated private text leaks claiming to show Camilla angrily bad-mouthing Princess and Prince William began circulating rapidly across encrypted messaging apps. Palace lawyers were forced to work around the clock, issuing urgent legal cease and desist warnings to media outlets attempting to publish the unverified leaks. The royal household is completely fractured. Staff members are reportedly being forced to choose sides, some quietly aligning themselves with Princess Anne's rising power base, while others remain fiercely loyal to Camilla, warning that a humiliated, cornered queen consort is the most dangerous enemy the House of Windsor has ever faced. As the public debate reaches an all-time high and international pressure mounts by the second, one terrifying question is dominating every headline across the globe: how far will Camilla go to avenge her public humiliation? And what catastrophic secret is she holding that could crumble the entire royal establishment? Just when the world believed this terrifying royal drama had reached its absolute peak, a final, unimaginable twist has dropped from behind the scenes, one that changes the entire nature of this war and threatens to plunge the British monarchy into an unprecedented constitutional crisis. While palace aides were hyper-focused on managing the explosive public fallout from Princess and taking over Camilla's senior duties, a brand new, top-secret intelligence leak has emerged from deep within the high-level security apparatus of the royal estate. It turns out that Queen Camilla didn't just spend her night isolated in her private quarters crying over her erased schedule. She was preparing her counterstrike. According to an astonishing, highly classified leak confirmed by senior palace security sources, Camilla has quietly retained the personal services of one of the most powerful, feared legal and crisis management teams in the entire United Kingdom, the exact same legal operatives who previously handled high-profile, explosive high society divorces and high-stakes corporate warfare. And what they have uncovered in Camilla's private possession has sent an absolute shockwave of blind terror directly into the hearts of King Charles and Prince William. For over 2 decades, during her long rise from an outcast mistress to the crowned queen consort, Camilla kept a meticulous, highly detailed, private personal diary. But it's not just a collection of personal thoughts. It contains dated, written records, private correspondence, transcribed phone calls, and confidential notes detailing the absolute deepest, darkest secrets of the royal family. It contains unfiltered details about the true, horrific extent of the private feuds between Charles and his sons, the raw, unedited truth behind the toxic royal leaks that targeted Harry and Meghan, the secret financial dealings and private power struggles over the royal estates, and, most terrifyingly of all, written evidence proving that senior royals deliberately plotted to sacrifice the public reputations of certain family members to protect the image of the crown. Camilla isn't just holding a diary. She is sitting on a nuclear dossier that could obliterate the legitimacy of the entire House of Windsor in a single afternoon. Insiders report that late last night, an anonymous, highly encrypted message was delivered directly to King Charles's private secretary. The message didn't contain dramatic threats or emotional outbursts. It contained a simple, chilling 6-word warning regarding the transfer of her senior duties to Princess Anne. Reverse the order, or I speak. King Charles is now facing the most horrific, agonizing ultimatum of his entire life. If he backs down, cancels the decree, and strips Princess Anne of her newly assigned authority to appease Camilla, he will look impossibly weak, shatter his relationship with Prince William, and destroy the credibility of his reign before it even truly begins. But if he refuses to back down and allows Princess Anne to keep control, a humiliated, vengeful queen consort is fully prepared to release her explosive private archives to the world's media. The palace is currently in a state of total, absolute lockdown. Emergency security sweeps are actively taking place across royal residences, panic rooms are being monitored, and emergency legal injunctions are currently being drafted in secret court sessions to prevent any potential leak from breaking the press embargo. Prince William has reportedly called an emergency, off-the-books meeting with his father and top legal advisors at an undisclosed private location to decide whether to launch a counter-offensive against Camilla or negotiate a desperate, secret truce before the ticking time bomb explodes. The war for the crown has reached a point of no return. The monarchy is standing on the absolute edge of a razor-sharp cliff, and the slightest misstep will unleash a scandal so massive, so catastrophic, that the House of Windsor may never recover. And as the clock ticks down toward the next scheduled public appearance, one terrifying reality remains hanging in the air. The royal announcement you saw 7 minutes ago was not the end of the story. It was merely the opening shot of the most destructive royal war in human history. This is an absolute royal disaster unfolding in real time right before our eyes, and the situation is changing by the second. What do you think about this explosive palace coup? Did King Charles make the right decision by stripping Queen Camilla of her duties and handing them to the fiercely reliable Princess Anne? Or was Prince William wrong to secretly push his father into humiliating Camilla on a global stage? And what do you think Camilla will do next with those explosive private diaries? Will she actually burn the royal family down, or will Charles be forced to surrender to her ultimate demand? Drop your honest thoughts, wildest theories, and predictions in the comments down below. I want to read every single one of your reactions. If you want to stay ahead of the game and never miss a single explosive update on this rapidly escalating royal war, hit that like button right now, smash that subscribe button, and click the notification bell so you are instantly notified the second our emergency follow-up report drops. We have insider sources monitoring the palace gates around the clock, and trust me, what is about to break in the next 24 hours will leave the entire world in absolute shock. Thank you for watching, stay tuned, and we will see you in the next emergency update.